So, welcome everyone to today's Grow Session. It is all about sales made simple, and our speaker today is going to take us through some strategies, some practical, actionable insights to make and help us be better entrepreneurs in selling our business and in all things sales. And we're going to see how he does because many of us find this to be one of those challenging topics. So we welcome Tom Birchall to the platform today. So Tom Birchall, profitability coach, and amongst other things, he also has a podcast and he's founder of Maverick's Business Academy. He's also a third generation entrepreneur, so he knows what he's doing, building dozens of businesses over the years and even an 8-figure one. Doing 25 million in revenue in the last one. So we look forward to his insights there. He's got quite a post-secondary education mix from psychology to engineering and 40 years building profitable businesses. And as soon as the internet was there, he was online. So amongst that, when he's not doing his digital work, he is also a musician and loves sports and to MacGyver things in his shop. So if you want to get to know Tom, definitely check him out on his podcast, theprofitablемaverick.com, as well as LinkedIn at Tom Birchall Online. So welcome, Tom, to today's session. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Laura. Appreciate that. And been looking forward to getting on here and sharing with you guys. Laura and I met last year sometime. And what I appreciate about you is your step forward spirit and innovativeness. And I wanted to do some of that today with my presentation and get some tech things all set up with a presentation you probably haven't seen before. And I quite like thinking and talking and presenting with my pen. It's been years in sales of having coffees with people, sitting nose to nose, toes to toes. And I've wanted to take that same thing from a virtual and a digital standpoint, computer and technology wise, and create a same and similar experience. Cool. And to add to the different way of doing things, I'd like to interact with us just so that we're gaining experience. Then I'm able to tailor things to what your experience is. So I would love for you to be off mute and just share a couple of things that come to mind with sales. So when you say sales, what are some thoughts that come to mind for you? Easy peasy, scary. What's that, Wes?
Service.
Service. Yep. Nice. What
I'm
else?
I'm afraid to always ask for money. I mean, in my heart, I just want to do everything for free, but it's like, oh, right, I have to ask for money.
Yeah, the ask. Ask for money. What else comes to mind?
Sleazy
Sleazy.
for some
Thank you.
some types of salespeople.
Yeah, for sure. The used car salesman kind of guy.
Hey, I'm in used finance too, okay?
Yeah, okay.
Essential, like we have to do it, or
Essential.
we have no cash and we can't build our business.
Yes.
It's the foundation.
I'm going to put revenue. Foundation. And excuse my spelling mistakes. I'm writing fast and it may not get all the little letters in there. Just getting the ideas out, right? Wonderful. What if I could tell you, you could triple your sales with one little mind hack? That's the first thing I wanted to share with you, is just kind of jump right into that. Is the mind hack is, I'm going to come over here, mind hack. Have you heard of the love languages? So we have love languages that in romantic relationships, any kind of relationship actually, and there's different types of people that speak in different ways. And we also have Myers-Briggs as far as a personality type indicator type of diagnostic profile. And there are 4 different types of things typically with all those diagnostic tests that you may be familiar with. And one that's familiar to me is one with animals, and it is the otter, lion, Labrador, beaver thing, right? Are you familiar with those?
I am.
So we typically will communicate to people in the orientation that we have ourselves. And so there's lion, there's the Labrador, there is the otter, and the beaver. And well, you're probably familiar, may or may not be familiar with these, but typically the lion, right, is picked as it's the roar, right, the roar. And a lion is someone who's ambitious and confident. They're a leader, they're aggressive, they're impatient. And then you've got the Labrador that is peacemaker, calm, steady, accepting, rational. And then you've got the otter that is social and outgoing and charismatic and fun-loving and impulsive and almost like shiny object situation. And then we've got the beaver that is industrious and thoughtful and organized. You're getting the idea, right, of these different types of personality types that we all are ourselves. And the mind hack here is we typically will relate to people and create a relationship from a sales standpoint with them on the way that we are. Can you identify which one you are? Does that come to mind for yourself? Throughout, Wes, what kind of a personality type are you?
All of the above.
Yeah, I'm similar. I'm a little bit of them all. Laura, what do you think you are?
I'm probably a lab.
Yeah,
Maybe that's why I love those dogs too. There you go.
I would agree. You're very relational and heartfelt, and like meaning and very like sensing and sensitive. They're all beautiful things, wonderful things. Desmond, how about yourself? What do you figure? Where do you fit in with that?
Yeah, I think like Wes, I think I'm a bit of them all. I think I'd love to be the lab, but I'm probably all the rest.
Yeah. Paula, how about yourself?
Well, you're
I would be the lab, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And who else have we got? Guru Murthy?
Yeah, hi. I'd be allowed to be the lab as well, the
all
peacemaking.
yay. All these
Okay.
good heartfelt people here. I love it.
So typically what will happen is in that light of relating to people, we'll pick in on, zero in on the lab. Like if you're a lab, you're going to relate to people as a Labrador and be very relational and heartfelt and be building relationships and resonate with people. It's like, oh man, like I really enjoy that person. They were, really heartfelt, and that loud person that was a lion, I'm not sure I didn't enjoy talking to them. Well, that's a sale for you right there, right? That person that's the lion, that person that's the otter, that person that's the beaver. Open up and expand your experience of how you relate to people, not necessarily needing to become like them, but not necessarily shying away from them. The beaver, right? They're the engineers and the accountants in the crew, in the crowd, right? And so they're very logical and sometimes just have that stern thinking face, like concentrating with the little furrowed brow, versus someone who's like just warm and welcoming and friendly, right? So we'll tend to, at a networking event, gravitate to people that are similar to ourselves. And what I'm wanting to open up here is the pool of people that you have that you can have and make relationships with and sales with are all these other types. And so if you're this one as a lab and you're making a quarter of the sales that you possibly could, whereas if you started to reach out to lions, you're getting another 25% of potential revenue. And to the otters in the crowd that are, distracted and shiny object over here, shiny object over there types, or those perhaps stoic beavers that are the engineers and the accountants, begin to open up the pool of people that you're starting to relate to. Make sense?
It makes sense, but it doesn't sound easy. Because if we don't understand that mindset, how do we reach out to them effectively?
Quite possibly. Excellent point. And that becomes part of the journey of doing personal work. of just stepping out of comfort zone to practice that. Go shake that hand of that lion, right? Maybe it's a lioness, like, and lions aren't necessarily male. Boy, let me tell you, there's a lot of women that are like roar. They are outgoing and outspoken and commanding and quite strong in their masculine energy. But that's a potential sale for you, right? And so it's building those bridges and reaching out of comfort zone just to build bridges with those different types of people.
Tom, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
I just want to be sure I understand. I do accept that the different types of personalities. Well, as you're talking now, are you talking about us being those personality types? Or are you talking about our clients being those personality types? Or are you just highlighting the fact that we're all a combination, whether we're sellers or buyers? Is that what you're saying? That it's one way of identifying broadly identifying people's personalities. Is that what you're saying?
Excellent question. And thank you for pointing that out. So we are any one of these. You've mentioned you're a bit of each. You'd like to be the Labrador. The idea here is not to become these. That's not the idea. The idea is that I'm going to zoom in here and I'm going to draw a pie and make a little bit of a matrix here where we've got lion, Labrador, otter, and the beaver. It's beginning to see that the population, the overall population of our potential revenue stream for making dollars is made up of all these different personality types. And we'll tend to gravitate to one. If you're the lab, that's the one we've been using here. We'll tend to just talk to those kinds of people. And you're excluding 3/4 of the population of potential revenue and potential buyers. That's the idea.
Are you going to tell us how to do this now?
I'm going to share another hack.
Okay.
I mean, I have and could talk for hours on all this stuff, but I want to give you a spattering of things and keep moving forward. Number 2 here is dealing with rejection. Sales is filled with a lot of no's, right? And we end up feeling a little bit deflated with all the no's. And I want to give you a little mind hack here to get rid of worrying about the rejection. There's yeses and there's no's. And we usually have to go through a lot of no's to get the yeses, correct? And the little mind hack here is to don't worry about the results. I find this is an entrepreneur's trap. There's a mindset of focus on results, focus on results. The challenge is you can't touch them and you can't directly impact a result like that. Hence its name. It's an outcome. It's the result of something else. What's the other things? You can control and touch the other things. Those are activities that you can touch, but you can't directly touch a result. It just happens. It occurs. It shows up. And when it comes to sales, we end up focusing on these yeses and nos, which are the results. And I want to flip that around and say, focus on this other thing. And the other thing is become a decision collector. Collect decisions. That's the mind hack. And start to celebrate that you facilitated a decision. I facilitated 10 decisions today, this week. Start collecting the decisions and let go of the yes or the no. That's the end result. If you're having a bunch of no's, you need to just get better at your activities on the front end of moving towards getting that yes. It's the measurement of how you're doing. And if you start to focus on, as Wes, I loved what you said earlier, Wes, sales is service. I agree. Another S word that I use for sales is sorting. Sales is sorting. Sales is service. Sales is sorting. Sales is providing and in facilitating a decision, and it's educating people on what your products and services are, and you're just sorting out to find the yeses and the nos. And if you start to tally, I did this with sales teams and worked with hundreds of people doing this, is start to tally your decision makings. Great, I got 10 no's, yay, like 10, I got 10, I facilitated 10 decisions. And when we get rid of being attached to the yes or the no, and we start collecting and focusing on collecting decisions and tallying that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've moved down to the sales process to the point of collecting a decision, and I got a yes or a no. Great. It was a decision that I collected. And we're able then to directly affect my decision collection process and the activities that I do of reaching out and connecting with people and getting to a point of them making a decision.
Can I ask a question on that? Is it,
Sure.
can you put different buckets other than yes and no and have it more gradient?
Sure. Yeah.
Only because as the marketing person, we love it when sales doesn't define it so easily. It's like no, and then they're off the board. It's like no means go back into the marketing funnel, like encourage them to join our email list, or maybe they're just not ready and they're in their consideration.
Yep. Because it's a process, right? And you have different steps along the way, and each of us will have different steps for our decision-making process. And you want to just facilitate that moving forward with each step and tracking where people are. And eventually you want to get to that point where it is pulling out the credit card and it's, here's my credit card, take my money. That's where you want to get to. And it is a matter of, I've just found this as a great little hack that's helped me be successful with business, is focusing on that.
I like that concept, Tom. And here's why. You're not tracking how many no's and how many yeses. You're tracking the decisions, which you're seeing. Am I getting more interviews? Am I getting more contact with people? Because then you can, after the fact, go back and relook at the ones that did not make a decision to join you today, chose not to, on what can I pivot? What could I provide that could have resulted in a possible different change? So
Yes.
if you're seeing 5 one week, 7 the next week, 10 the next week, you're getting more connections, you're doing more touches, then you can start to go back and review, okay, what can I adjust to convert some of these no's into yeses? What's more information that I could have provided? Where could I have pivoted to provide a different result?
Yes. And you have direct touch, direct access to that. How is my presentation? What are the words I'm using? What's the language I use to, let's start at the beginning. How did I connect with this person in the first place? What was the setup there and the expectation that they had of me? Because as you talk with someone, you start to set up a framework in their mind from a sales standpoint of what kind of conversation you're going to have when you're booking the meeting, right? You're out networking, you're at a party, you're at an event, you're at a conference, wherever it might be, you're connecting with people, and their first impression of you starts to set up little constructs in their mind of what this experience with you is going to be. And you book a meeting. Okay, so now I have the opportunity to sit and chat with someone. So all these steps along the way, you have direct control over. You don't have control necessarily of the yes or the no. But as you start focusing, thank you for pointing that out, Wes, the decision collection process and tallying that. You keep track of the yeses and nos too, and you start to tweak. Typical conversion rate is about 10%, right? I've built tons of business cases on that. And, you talk to 10 people, one of them is going to say yes. And so, just work numbers. Well, why don't we change that? I started implementing this. I started worrying less about the no's because it's depressing. I've had sales jobs where I was the sales guy, and all the no's you go through, it's like, wow. I started sales when I door-to-door sales in grade 6. How old are you in grade 6? You're 12. And it was junior high. Grade 6s were moved in our neighborhood in Canyon Meadows here in Calgary out of the elementary school into the brand new junior high school because it was empty. So it went 6 to 9, and they had a band. We needed to raise money for the band. And so guess what we did? About once a quarter over the year, like at least 4 times a year, maybe even once every 2 months, we were selling at Christmas, Christmas candles and Christmassy things. And closer to the summer, we were selling oranges and grapefruits from Florida, fresh fruit. I've just sold soup to nuts, door-to-door sales. And it's a matter of just refining and fine-tuning your presentation. And it's a lot of no's. I started to implement this in my business of worrying less about the yes or the no, tracking it, but celebrating the decisions. And I started to move and tweak my presentation so that I started to move that 10% conversion rate up to 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80%. I was 80%. I was 8 for 10. I talked to 10 people to book a meeting, 8 of them would book. When I sat down at the meeting and gave a presentation, out of 10 presentations I gave, I would close 8. My conversion rate was huge because I stopped worrying about the yeses and nos. I started focusing on dialing in and tweaking the feedback from my presentation to make it very effective. So I just had more yeses. If I'm going to talk to all these people, I may as well convert them. May as well get to that conclusion. May as well get to that, yes, here's my credit card. Thomas, let me give it to you. And so that made a huge difference for myself. Stepping forward into number 3 is the difference between sales and marketing. And all y'all probably already know this, but I want to make some distinctions here. What sounds more normal and natural as far as the order of the words? Sales and marketing, or marketing and sales? Sales and marketing, or marketing and sales?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I always, when we go to write it, we always write it sales and marketing, and I always stop myself and say, that's not the way to do it. But it always rolls off your tongue, sales and marketing. I work in sales and marketing. He had a sales and marketing job, right? Or whatever. But well,
Yeah.
I assume the point you're making is that marketing generally has to come before sales, right?
Yeah. Chronologically, it's always before.
Yes,
It's
but
not an importance thing.
chronologically. However, priority,
Yeah.
what comes first?
Well, you got to make money, and the revenue generation comes from the sales process. So I've got this way of writing it that's helped me. Well, let me finish just defining this. Sales is one-to-one, right? And marketing is one to many. Yeah. Have you heard that before?
Tom, I got to tell you, the thing that you assume we already figured out for seller already know. Don't assume, because
Yeah.
even
Okay.
I've never heard that before. I've never thought of that. And there's a few other things you said. Oh, you guys probably know. And the lion, the otter, and the beaver. I actually read a book about that years and years ago, and I kept thinking, what was that book called? And I never heard anyone else talk about it. So I don't think it's as
Well,
wide known or understood. And I love that one you just gave us. Thank you.
thank you. Appreciate that. So yeah, sales is one-to-one and marketing is one-to-many. So that initial marketing process, and as we're doing business, it's like, wow, this is the frustration I have with I was going to say new entrepreneurs, not new entrepreneurs. It's people teaching how to do sales and marketing as business coaches. I'm kind of poking at my own industry here, not you, Laura, as a marketing person, but business coaches. They start talking about, you got to do marketing, get out there and start doing some marketing. And it's like, well, what happens after marketing? You sit down, like you start to sift through that one-to-many experience where one message gets sent out. You know, it's an email, goes out to lots. It's a campaign that goes out to lots of people. Then people start to pop up and engage in conversation with you, and you move into a sales process, which is more, I'm pointing down, but I haven't changed my screen. It's more that one-to-one experience. And you begin to work through a process with that person to get to the point where they can say, hey, here's my credit card, and they'll do a sale. And when you start marketing first and your sales process isn't ready, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And I find that happens with so many entrepreneurs. And so what I do, here's my little hack. We said marketing comes before sales. And my little hack is to put this little S up in front. The title of this talk is Sales Made Simple, SMS. I love acronyms, especially TLAs, three-letter acronyms. I come from the tech industry. I used to work for Nortel years ago. And a little fun story on TLAs, three-letter acronyms. We would have presentations with the Mucky Mucks, and whoever drew the short straw having to do the presentation, us as engineering types, we'd have lists of very complicated words. And a person, before they went into the presentation, they'd have to pick a three numbers from 1 to 10. So like 257. And so you look down the list of 10 things on, like number 2 was technology. 5 was matrix. And they're just random technical words. And they'd have to use that in their presentation. Maybe the last word. So it's a technology matrix conundrum. And so it's a technology matrix conundrum, a TMC. They have to use TMC, the acronym, 3 times in the presentation. It means nothing, and they have to slip it by the senior management. And hopefully, if someone asked, what's a TMC? Anyways, it was a lot of chuckles at presentations, but I digress. Back to this. This small s is beginning to use your business as a laboratory and spend time experimenting with your sales process to get it right. And when you've locked in your sales process, you can then move to the bigger marketing experience. When you've locked in your sales process as an experimental to get your words and language down, to get your process down, practice getting your sales process mastered. And when you've gained mastery of this small s, you can move to the big, more formal marketing process and then kick in your sales process to catch all that traffic, because you've spent all this time going in marketing and getting many people interested in your product or service. And then when you step into the sales process, it's in place. What I find a lot of people do not have is their hook. And so the language that you use, the words that you use when you're connecting with people from a sales standpoint, language becomes very important. As a musician, I am a classically trained percussionist and drummer. I've played drums since I was 12. I studied with the principal percussionist of the Calgary Philharmonic, and I've played in bands, and I sing as well. I sing in a performing symphony and chorus. I sing baritone, and I've toured most of North America either singing or drumming. And what I find fascinating in the music world is it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There's 7 notes, and there's several octaves, but there's only 7 notes. All music that ever has, is, and ever will be is made up of 7 notes. There's sharps and flats of each, or most, and then it's just a repeated octave. But all music that ever has been created is just from 7 notes. And the same thing with our language. There's 26 letters in the alphabet. Every sentence that has ever been spoken, is spoken, ever will be spoken in the English language, it comes from these 26 letters. We just pick and pull them, and we use it to form and make language. My business took off hockey stick, like up and to the right in revenues in a profound way, from 6 figures to 7 figures to 8 figures. When I did this one exercise, it was a financial business. I wanted to get into the laboratory and talk to lots of people in a short period of time. And I thought, I want to go to like a trade show. And then the latest one, or the most soonest one happening, was the home show. And I'm running a financial business at a home show, not necessarily connecting the dots, but financial products and services is what I was selling. I looked at the roster of who had venues. I thought, surely I know someone there. And sure enough, a friend of mine had a mortgage booth. And he was a mortgage broker, and he had a booth at the home show for getting mortgages and lending. And I said, hey, dude, do you mind if I come stand just on the corner of your booth? There's going to be hundreds and thousands of people coming through there from Friday to Saturday to Sunday. And I just want to talk to him. I said, I don't want to sell anything. And he's like, sure, Tom, I trust you. Like, that's fine. He just said, don't have any brochures or anything out. And I said, cool. I'm just going to be there with a pen and a clipboard. And I just talked to people. And what I wanted to do was find out what was important to them. Because here's the secret to business. Ask people what they want, go and get it, and give it to them. You want to eliminate sales? That's the recipe right there. Ask people what they want, go and get it, give it to them. You don't have to sell anything. They're like, I already want this. Where do I sign? How do I throw my credit card at you? Where take my money. And so I wanted to find out what people were interested in and how could I take the product and services I had and figured out what they want to match that up. And so I just started talking to people on Friday. And I spent all day just asking people, what comes to mind when you are investing? What comes to mind when it comes to taxation? What comes to mind when you think about finances and money? I started to get all this information and I started to find what percolated up was what was important to people. And so Saturday, I started leading then with some of the research I had done the day before with starting to tweak language. This was an invaluable exercise. On Sunday, I dialed it in and I started looking for busy people walking. So Sunday was a really busy day. And I would find that when I was standing on the corner of this booth and someone was about 10 feet to my right and they were walking and they could hear my voice till 10 feet to the left. And I would find the busiest person walking with a mission. I could see them like coming down the trade floor and they're walking and dodging people, walking briskly. They're focused. And I just started to throw out some of the words that I experimented with. And I'd like be did it. And just as I finished, this one gentleman in particular, he stopped, he spun around and looked me right in the eye. He marched back and stood in front of me. He said, "What did you say?" And I just repeated what I had said to him as he was busily walking along. I thought it broke him out of this mission that he was on. He came back over and stood in front of me. He says, "We have to meet. Here's my number." I had my clipboard and my pen and wrote it down. And I said, "Thank you very much. I'll give you a call." And he took off. And I kept doing that with people. And it was, I dialed in the key things that people want and is important to them and that they value highly. And that helped me really dial in booking my meetings. I then started to apply that to my presentation, of tweaking my presentation to make it better. And that's where I started to get this conversion rate of 80%. If I talked to 10 people to book a meeting, I would book 8 of them. And also when I did the presentation, same kind of thing. And so find an opportunity where you can start to work in this laboratory and dial in your sales process to get your language and the experience you create with people down pat. Because then when you start to go market in a more formal basis, you've got a sales process dialed in and tweaked so that you're going to catch all that traffic and start to convert it instead of just waste it. People get marketing too quick, and it needs to be flanked on either side with this experimental laboratory small s experience before you get into the marketing and then the sales at the end, because one informs the other. And you can make a big difference in your sales revenue. So, how are we doing on time, Laura?
We have 10 minutes.
Perfect. So what I have just talked about is learning how to triple your sales. I'm just going to summarize and go back in my sheets here. We talked about a mind hack of broadening out. There's the pool of people in the population. And if you end up being a Labrador, start to push past your comfort zone into talking to the lions and the otters and the beavers and not only relating to the people that is whom you are like. Second thing we talked about is getting past the rejection process and all the no's that you get. Flip that around so that you are collecting decisions. Keep track of your yeses and no's and start to get more yeses along the way, but celebrate every day, every week, every month, every quarter, all the decisions you collected, because that's the activity you're doing as a salesperson. It's good and awesome and smart and hard work. Celebrate the decisions that you've collected. Third thing we talked about is sales and marketing process of getting a small ass laboratory happening and then moving into that marketing and sales process. I had 4 things. What did I miss? Oh, I defined what sales and marketing was. And then number 4 was this one here. I did them both at the same time. Laboratory. So we defined what sales and marketing is. It's one-to-ones, it's sales, and marketing is one-to-many. And then this process of small s, big M, big S, getting the order sorted out for marketing and sales. EBD, that's all, folks.
That's cool. Thanks, Tom. On that last point, the small s, big M and S in our world, which is where I love where marketing and sales can work together. Usually the S for us has always just been research, right? We just go and do it before we start investing as we have to do it. But when you have both hats on, the marketing and sales, you can actually use your time effectively. So I really like that. Cool.
Thank you.
Questions?
Questions?
There was a couple of things you said, Tom, I thought were interesting, but this stuff always makes you think about things I don't know, concepts you've learned or you're observed and you've forgotten or whatever it might be you never knew before. So there is an expression that you can't make anyone buy anything, meaning if someone is not a potential customer, you can't make them buy something, right? So that they have to have a predisposition. So that's, and then Laurie, right at the beginning, you asked about yes, no. I think, as we all know, that there's yes, no, and not right now. So we haven't qualified them enough, or maybe they need to save some money, and maybe they need to go further down the curve, right? So that's an interesting one. And then there's also the one that you don't want people in your pipeline who are not evers, because you end up marketing to people you're really almost wasting your time, right? Because if somebody's a not ever, then you don't necessarily want them in your funnel or your pipeline unless you've got other products you can sell them, because then they become a waste. And it's the same with getting an appointment and discovering the client doesn't qualify, never qualified, and maybe you could have figured that out earlier, right? I mean, none of this isn't consistent to what you said. It's just all the different nuances, right?
Yep. Thank you for sharing.
From that standpoint, Des, just as my brain's going into the sales funnel, like it's almost like a game of just the yes and no's in different stages, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to get a proposal. Yes, moving it to the next stage. And then we just keep getting all the yeses till they're finally going to buy and then maybe sell them more. And yes, and oh, hey, yes, they're going to share it with their friends. Yes. So is that kind of on par with what you're saying, Tom? Too?
Yes.
Yes.
Like it's all your process, and it's a matter of like dialing it in.
Okay.
Well, it's all psychology, right? I mean, I think ultimately, I think you said it earlier on. There's always a psychological element to all of this, right? So that is my thing about eliminating not ever, or that you'll never be able to create a need that they don't have, right? You can only uncover it, I suppose, in the psychology of helping people understand about that. The reverse of what you said, or a different way of saying what you said right at the beginning is, in sales, I was in financial sales, and you know how it is. It's tough, right? It's tough. It's rejection, it's numbers, it's hard work, it's knocking on doors. But one of the things that kept me going is the expression "get to the no," because as soon as somebody says no, absolutely no, for whatever reason, you can stop wasting time with them, because you're in the process. It takes time. It's an investment you're investing time, energy, and everything else with each prospect. And if someone gives you a no, that is really a no for whatever reasons, not a no, not yet or not now, but a genuine no, again, because maybe they don't qualify or whatever it might be, or they just will never buy. If they can tell you, if you can get them to tell you that, it's actually a blessing, not a curse. I'm sure that I'm sure in what you said, isn't that? I'd be interested in your views on that, Tom.
Absolutely. It's this right here. It's collecting a decision. Get to the no. Like that's the decision.
Right.
I want to know if it's a no or a yes. Don't care what it is. Just don't care. In the big picture with your paycheck, you do because you want to get better at facilitating yeses. And as you analyze and get feedback on your presentation, you'll get better and more yeses. But getting to the no is collecting that decision. And that's what you're doing. And you can celebrate that because that's the work you're doing. The work is the decisions.
Yeah.
Cool. What's the next step from this? You've like teased us with what we need to do, but how do we actually do it?
Sure. That is the laboratory here, is beginning to play with your sales. And I think, at least what I find with people that I'm coaching, is they step into the marketing too quick. Sorry, Laura.
No, because, well, like I said, it's research. We always say research first. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Start playing with your sales process and getting your language down. Get that language down. Find out what is important to people. I mean, I could do a whole talk on values, right? Like sales is values process with values proposition. Understand what people value. How do you do that? Well, that's a whole discussion then on asking questions. When you ask good questions, you're controlling the conversation and you are finding out gathering information from people. Number three, great thing about asking questions is people love to talk. They love to listen to the sound of their own voice. And when you ask them questions, they get comfortable. They start sharing and you can guide the conversation along the way. When you do it naturally and comfortably and authentically with showing interest, it's wonderful versus the young sales guy I had in my office. I was director in sales and marketing for a technology company here in Canada, a national company. I think we had offices in Toronto and out here in Calgary, out west. And this guy wanted to sell me something. I love meeting with salespeople because you like to yank their chain a little bit and play around. But this guy just was robotic with asking questions. And I knew he had just had sales training on it. And he would sit and try and think of another curious question to ask. And I could see the wheels turning in his head. And I'm like, oh, good grief, dude. Get more authentic and comfortable in your skin. But start working through that. And if you're not comfortable, have those conversations. Go to experiences or events where there's lots of people and you can have lots of iterations in a short period of time. I find that so valuable. And that was the real key with that home show that I went to and stood on the corner of this mortgage booth just with my clipboard and a pen. It's like, I don't care about selling anything right now. I want to gather information and do research like Laura, you were saying, and find out what is it that people value. Because when you find out what they value, in my context, in that time with that business I was building, it was a financial product and services. What do people value about that? And, there's a phrase, it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. That is a hook. I think that was the guy that was walking real fast. I think that's the phrase that I said to him. When it comes to taxes, did you know that it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep? Then he stopped. And it all filtered and he turned around and he marched back over to me. He said, what did you say? And I repeated that phrase. Well, what is that phrase with the thing that you sell that strikes a chord in someone's mind and heart of what they value highly and is really important to them? Connect that thing with what your product and service is, and your conversion rates are skyrocketing. They're going up, up, up. That's when I tripled my business in the 7-figure range. We were making $1.3 million and we bumped up to 6-ish, somewhere in there, in a year. Because I tied my product and service with what people valued, and I found the words that made that click in their brain and in their heart. And they're like, I have to talk. Like, people would tell me this. Here's a funny one. I happened to meet a guy at a Tony Roma's, and they had lots of tables and chairs that were really close. I was uncomfortable with how close the tables and chairs were. But here's a funny thing that happened. My presentation with this guy was overheard by people. And in the hour that I was there, the people that were just finishing their dinner leaned over to me, gave me a napkin and said, sorry, I couldn't help but overhear what you were talking about, but I need to meet with you. And then some new people sat down in the same spot. And by the time I was finished getting packed up to go, they leaned over to me and gave me a business card and said, I couldn't help but overhearing you. Guess what I started doing? I started booking meetings there all the time because the tables and chairs were so close. And that happened on a regular basis because I had language that was what people valued highly, and it connected dots all the time. I take that. Here's the thing I didn't say earlier. With SMS, in your laboratory, and Laura, you probably were alluding to that, as you dial in your sales process, you push that into your marketing and use that same language for your marketing. And it's tried, tested, and true. So your marketing is going to be effective because you did the research in your laboratory and just started experimenting with a little small S sales. And you put that in your marketing. And then when you start to meet with people and do the one-on-one connection with them to collect the decisions, your sales goes up. So when you do that laboratory process, your marketing becomes more effective and your sales become more effective.
And that's where I think the whole sales and marketing thing, right, works as a feedback loop. You have to constantly be working together, which I love because then marketing's, successful, sales successful, and messaging is consistent and the business grows.
Yes, yes, yes.
So Tom, A/B testing then is a very simplistic version of that laboratory you're talking about. So A/B testing in marketing.
Yeah.
But it's
Yep.
only binary, right? So you're talking a lot more on the personal and individual level, and it's very nuanced, I guess is your point. And you've got all these different personality types. So your messaging's the perfect messaging, if there is such a thing, or let's say the effective messaging makes those different groups think what you're saying relates to them. Right. Okay.
Definitely. And there's psychology around all of these. And like I said, I could speak for hours on this. Each one of these have trigger words. So when you start to address the whole population, for example, lions, you need to use the word best for lions. A lion will not buy anything unless it's the best. And unless you say the word best in your marketing and in your discussion with them, saying, frankly, I'm the best. My product and service is the best. This is the best. Their ears will perk up. Boom, you got a lion right there with best. Labradors, otters, beavers, there's language that sit in and around each of these. And so you want to have in your sales process, start testing that and seeing, hey, when I start using the word best, am I catching lions? Like your marketing wants to have some of those psychoanalytic words that are triggers for them and what they value highly. And when you start to put that all together, you start getting cool results and start cooking with gas.